Whether you're working with a brand new car or something your grandfather could have owned, they all need maintenance. So today we're going to go over the various aspects of vehicle maintenance. If you've ever seen our supply room, you can tell it's very evident that we have lots and lots of different types of fluids and chemicals and supplies that go along with automobiles. But how do you know which ones you need for your own car? We have things here on the table like different types of engine oil. We have regular engine oil. We have synthetic, full synthetic engine oil. They come by different weights. This one's 5W20, that one's 5W30. We have 0W20 here. This 2-dextrose is actually a chemical additive that certain manufacturers require you to have in your oil to warranty the vehicle. So that's important. There's power steering fluid. Certain cars may actually take automatic transmission fluid in the power steering. There's different lubricants, WD-40, silicone, white lithium grease. There's cleaners, engine bright, brake parts cleaner, different chemicals used to install brakes. This is disc brake quiet. You spray it behind the brake pads to keep it from chirping. Brake fluids, DOT 4, DOT 3 and 4, and DOT 3, and you have to know which to use. You have different types of gear lubes. Same with the oil, they have different weights. Antifreezes. This is a mix with anything coolant. This is good for all makes and models, but there are different types of fluids. Windshield washer fluid. You're in a northern region where it snows. You have to make sure you get the right type. So how do you know what type goes in your car? So if you've been here long enough, you know that we have our ShopKey program. As we have it pulled up right here, I'm logged into it. I have a car put into it, 2013 Dodge Grand Caravan. For you, as an auto technician, you have this tool. It's a really great tool. You can find just about anything you need to know about a car on it. In this case, you go across the top here, there's different things. There's the service manual, wiring diagrams, tire pressure information, reset procedures, fluid capacities. So if we happen to select fluid capacities there, we can see all the different types of fluids that this vehicle could take and the exact fluid it takes. Here's your antifreeze. They want you to use a coolant 10-year, 150,000 mile formula, organic additive technology, meeting the requirements of Chrysler. The engine oil, it says right here, engine oil. If you're doing an oil change with a filter, it takes 6 quarts of 5W20. Power steering fluid, windshield antifreeze for the windshield. And that's basically one page. Depending on the vehicle you're working on, you may get a larger page of stuff, you may not. Now, you may say to yourself, what if I'm at home and I'm trying to check this car out and I have no idea what goes in it? Where do you think you can look to find the information you need? Well, every vehicle, when it's brand new, comes with an owner's manual. It's usually in the glove box. Also, sometimes tucked away is a maintenance schedule, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is the owner's manual for the Mazda MPV outside. If you open it up and look, the same information you see on ShopKey, you can actually see on the pages of this book. Sometimes, and this is like not part of the conversation, but you also can find your warranty information that's printed in a separate manual. Now, getting back to the scheduled maintenance guide. You can also find that on ShopKey. It tells you, depending on what mileage is on the vehicle, it tells you the individual services that you should probably do to the vehicle. And it varies by the mileage that's on the car. You notice, like certain mileage, there's more things to do, certain mileage, there's less things to do, okay? And then when you're out there looking at a car, we're going to talk about, in the general sense, of the things you're supposed to look at. But I would highly advise, if you have a maintenance schedule for your vehicle, that you follow it. All right, getting started. Looking under the hood of this vehicle, you can see a lot of different caps, a lot of pictures, a lot of wires, a lot of confusion. If you've never been under the hood of a car, you're going to have to get used to it. So, one of the things you need to know, even if you're not going to work on cars for a living and you're a new driver, you need to know where the fluids are so you can check them. So, remember that owner's manual we just talked about? This is the same one. I'm trying to get a good picture here. Most owner's manual will have a diagram, such as this one, to show you where all the fluids are located, where the dipsticks are and the fuel caps, and etc. Obviously, this is for a different vehicle. So, first thing I'd like to show you is how to check oil. Given that somewhere around the year 1996, a discussion was had between all the major car manufacturers throughout the world on globalization of symbols and being able to communicate and work on each other's vehicles without any kind of confusion. So you're going to notice in certain vehicles, certain things have different symbols. In this case, that oil cap says engine oil on it, but if it didn't, or you can't speak English, you're going to notice that that symbol is for an oil can. So obviously this hole is where you would add your oil. Now looking around underneath this hood, I'm looking for the dipstick to check the oil. There's two dipsticks under here. There's one right here, and there's one tucked in behind here. Neither of them have any writing on them. So if we're looking to check our oil and we don't have a book, we're going to have to guess that the one closest to the engine or the one that's actually in the engine is for the oil. The one that's in the transmission is for transmission fluid. So the first thing you need to do when you check your oil, some vehicles have a hot mark, some of them have a cold mark. Some of them insist that you start them up and warm them up the operating temperature before you check them. Depends on the vehicle. But either way, there's crosshatch marks on this dipstick I'm going to show you. As long as your oil is somewhere in that crosshatch mark, it doesn't really necessarily mean that it's low if it's in the middle. It doesn't mean it's like overfilled if it's to the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our dipstick, we're going to wipe it. First thing I'm going to do, which is what I should have did to begin with, is I'm going to check the condition of my oil. Take your oil on your dipstick here, give it a sniff. This smells really horribly like gasoline. And that's because this car had a hard time starting. Also, the consistency and the color. This isn't too bad. If it looks really, really thick and sludgy, that vehicle hasn't had an oil change in a very long time. New oil actually might take on a darker color once the car is ran, but it should probably be like, when it goes in like an amber color. If it comes out like a slightly browner color when you pull your dipstick, don't panic, the oil's still good. And oil can be changed with different intervals, and that maintenance schedule that I just showed you will specify when you're supposed to change your oil. Or if you have a newer vehicle like I have, it estimates the amount of miles you put on it and compares it to the load. Like say if you do a lot of pulling or whatever, it'll actually tell you to change the oil sooner. If you drive just like back and forth to church every Sunday, like really slow, they'll probably tell you to like wait for a longer interval. So anyway, wipe the dipstick clean. Okay, that's your first step. Make sure there's nothing on there. And if you notice, there's a crosshatch mark right there. Hold still. See the two dots right there? In between those two dots is crosshatch mark. We're checking our oil. We want that oil to be somewhere in between. So we wipe this thing clean. We're going to take it straight back in and we're going to bottom it out as far as it goes. Pull it back out, and then we're going to check our level. Wow, look at that. You'd have to say that the oil in this car is way overfilled. Remember the gasoline smell I told you about? Well, that's because this thing wasn't starting for a while, and all the gasoline has to have a place to go in it when the car's like flooded out, they call it. That gasoline ends up in the oil pan, and that's why this is overfilled. If it was actually to the right marks, it would look something like this. If it was low, if it was low, like say to there, did you know that between the low mark and the high mark, most of the time, don't quote me on this because I could be wrong here or there, most of the time that's exactly 1 quart to go from that mark to that mark, which means if it's down to about half of that, 1 quart would probably end up taking that up to about the middle. So you could guesstimate it. You can always add more. It's harder to take oil out, so you don't want to overfill it. So I would suggest until you get a hang of it, maybe put a ½ quart in, check it, and check it again with another ½ quart. The other thing you should worry about or think about and consider when you're adding oil, you want to make sure you have a clean funnel. You also want to make sure the cap is wiped off before you open this up. When you do add the oil, you want to give it a good couple minutes to settle out to the bottom of the pan before you pull the dipstick back out. So if I had this thing, I checked it, added a quart of oil and immediately pulled this out, that oil is still trying to run its way down into that pan. It'd be really easy to like overfill it. So, another point to be made with oil. Is one brand better than the other? If you had done your last assignment, Valvoline Oil 101, they explain to you the different oil ratings and how they grade them. This is your cheap Walmart oil. You think, oh, I ain't putting that crap in my car, right? And this is actually better oil. It's made by, well, supposedly better oil. It's made by Valvoline, okay? And you've heard all about Valvoline. But if you take these 2 containers and you flip them over, you take a look at that little ILSAC rating right there. It says SN+. If it focused. Guess what this one says? SN+. Believe it or not, these 2 oils, even though they might be different prices, pretty much are the same oil. You're okay using this Walmart SuperTech stuff. This stuff here is what we usually use here in the shop because we get it for about the same price as most people pay for the Walmart oil. Now, pause the video, go over to your vehicle, locate the oil fill cap, locate the dipstick. I want you to check your oil. Welcome back. I hope you checked your oil okay. Did anybody have to add any? I have not. So, now I'm going to go over how to check transmission fluid. So, first thing you need to do is locate your transmission fluid dipstick. Now, just keep this in mind. The same place on this transmission that you're checking the fluid is also the same place that you added. So if you do have to add fluid, make sure you use a clean funnel and make sure you go in ½ quart, quarter of a quart, small amount at a time until you get it up to the level you want it. You don't want to just dump a whole quart of fluid in there if it's a little low. Alright, so we located it, it's right here. And your book should tell you the conditions of which you should check the fluid. But in this particular case, it actually says it on the dipstick. It says, don't add if it's in the crosshatched area, check when hot, idling in park, use Merc on 5 oil. It's important. Every transmission, depending on the manufacturer, they may require a different oil. Automatic transmission fluid, Dextron 2 Merc on. This is Merc on 4, Dextron Merc on. Okay. Multi-vehicle. This stuff here is kind of like fits most Ford, Toyota, Honda. This is like a universal fluid. I kind of stay away from them. I try to stick with what specifically goes in things. So in this particular case, we need Merc on 5. So instead of LV, actually I believe that might be even 6. All right. So, as before, with the engine oil, we have a crosshatched area on this stick. See the 2 dots right there? It's between there. We don't want you to start it and check it idling hot. I'm not running it till it's hot, but I will start this because if you check it now while it's not running, the level is not going to come up right in your stick. I have my hose for the exhaust hooked up. And of course the car's not going to want to start. Okay, the vehicle's running. I have the stick wiped off. I'm going to go down inside the dipstick hole. Bottom it out like we did for the oil. Pull it out. Take a look at the fluid level. It's halfway in the crosshatch mark. Same thing as before, we're going to check our quality. It should be red. That's pretty red. Lighting here is not the best. And it shouldn't smell bad. Give it a sniff. Most every fluid, you're going to want to look at the color of it and the quality of it to decide whether it needs changed or not. Transmission fluid usually tends to last, depending on the vehicle, some last 30,000 miles, some last 100,000 miles. Again, you've got to consult your service manual or your owner's guide. Alright? And it's really important, like I said before, I can't stress it enough, make sure you use the right fluid for the car. Now be cautious because some vehicles require you to have the vehicle idling in neutral. And if your vehicle is in neutral, you need to set your parking brake and or use wheel chocks to keep the car from rolling while you're checking your fluid. A lot of Chryslers are like that. Now, as before, on the vehicle you're working on, unless you have a manual transmission, I want you to go find the transmission fluid dipstick and check your tranny fluid. Welcome back! Did anybody get fooled? If you have a vehicle without a dipstick, that's okay. Those vehicles are considered filled for life, and that's something you can't check as a regular person driving your own car. Those vehicles require you to go to the dealership or a garage that knows what they're doing, that has a scan tool. They have to actually warm up the vehicle to a certain temperature and use the scan tool to read the temperature of the transmission. And then they have to pull out a plug on the transmission to see if fluid runs out. If fluid runs out, it's full. If fluid doesn't run out, it needs to be added to it. And to add it to it, you need something called a suction gun, which looks like this guy. All right. All this thing is like a big shot needle. You pull this little handle down here, it goes, and then you push it in, it goes, blows it back in. And you'd fill it up through a little nozzle at the bottom of the transmission. Alright, so let's move on here. Since we already have the camera angled there, let's take a look at our brake fluid, shall we? First thing we need to do, locate our brake master cylinder. And like I said, you guys just starting out, you may not know where that is. You might have to look in the book. Here's a little advice for you. If you go on like Advanced Auto Parts website and you don't want to know what a part looks like, go into the parts website, type in the name of the part for the vehicle you're working on, and they show you a picture of the part. Then you can locate it on the vehicle. Just like if you're looking at a part on the vehicle and you don't know what it is, you can use Google Lens, take a picture of the part, and it'll come up and it'll tell you what it is on Google. So I'm going to take my rag, wipe my cap off. It's really important you'll get even a single speck of dirt in this master cylinder, because if you do, the holes that the fluid travels through are so small they can plug up and cause a brake malfunction. So I'm going to take this cap off. The first thing I'm going to do when I take the cap off is I'm going to read the cap. Some of these will have like a little stoplight symbol on them. This one here has warnings on it. It says clean the filler cap, yada yada yada. Most of the time they tell you what type of fluid to use on it. This one here says use .3. And then I'm going to look at the condition of the fluid. In this case, it doesn't look so great. I'm going to get a light in here actually. This car has obviously been sitting here for 10 years. Brake fluid is supposed to look clean and clear. This looks kind of dark and murky. So I would suggest, if it was a car driving on the street, I would suggest to whoever the owner is to get a service done. Also, since I have the light under here, this master cylinder is an easy one to check. I don't know if the magic of this camera can See that far? Let me see if I can get a little zoom action down here. There's actually marks on here. It says max. That brake fluid is supposed to be up to that mark. It says max. If it's low, it's okay. If it's a lot low, it's a problem. Know this. When brake master cylinders go low, the little red light comes on your dashboard that says that your fluid's low. If that happens, you've got one of two things happening. You got either brake fluid leaking, which is not good, or your brake lining's low. So your brake pads, they wear out, they get smaller, and as they get smaller, the piston has to travel farther out of its bore, and that fluid takes up that bore. So, if I would top this off, if it was a little bit low, and I would keep topping it off, as that fluid, as the brakes started wearing out, and kept wearing out, that red light would never come on because the fluid wouldn't go low enough for it to happen. So I would advise you against topping off brake fluid. If it's low, have the brakes checked. If it is low and you suspect a leak, you definitely want to add fluid to it till you get the brakes checked, and then advise the technician, or if you're yourself checking the brakes, look for your leaks and know there has to be a reason why that brake fluid went low. One more tip about brake fluid. You never want to mix the two types, three types. There's all kinds of types of brake fluid out there now. .3, .4. It's super important you don't mix the two, because if you mix this guy with .5, it gels up and makes jello in your brake system. You have to replace the entire brake system. Now, as before, go out to the vehicle you're working on, locate your brake master cylinder, wipe it off really, really well, see if you can get a reading on it. Now, if you notice with this type, you can just see right through the side of it. You don't have to take the cap off of it. That's fine if that's how you want to check it, but you're not going to check the quality of the fluid by leaving the cap on. So I highly suggest you go ahead and take that cap off, take a look. Make sure you put these caps on tight when you go to put them on. They don't be super tight, but make sure they're sealed. Welcome back. So, was your brake fluid low? Did you think about maybe changing it? Your brakes need looked at. Good questions for you to ask yourself, and maybe a good thing you looked at this car right now if it is low, right? So, next thing we're going to look at is power steering. Now, vehicles are all set up a little bit different. Some have this type of power steering reservoir where it's part of the pump. Some have a separate bottle elsewhere. To locate it, the caps may be a little bit different. Remember how I was speaking about the global symbols? If you look really closely at that one, yes, it says steering fluid. That little tiny guy right there looks like a steering wheel. That is how you know that this is power steering fluid if you couldn't speak English. Just as before, this one has a dipstick on it. Okay, it says full hot, full right here. On the other side it says full cold. Alright, so depending on whether this vehicle is hot or cold, you know how far it's supposed to be on this dipstick. You would add the fluid directly into this hole, and you heard it running before, so you know that this thing here is absolutely, positively not full. Just to give you a side note here, I put ultraviolet leak detection dye in this car because it has a power steering leak. And the lights here aren't doing it very much justice. Here I could do it this way. But if this thing was leaking somewhere and you can't find out where the leak's coming from, see how it looks like regular fluid? I'm going to shine this light down in there. See how it glows green? The additive I added to it will show up bright green wherever the leak is. So I could actually just add the fluid to it, add the dye to it, and then take it and run it and use this flashlight, special flashlight to trace it down. Now, like I said before, certain vehicles actually take power steering fluid, and it's actually marked power steering fluid. However, this particular car takes exactly the same thing in the transmission as it does inside this power steering reservoir. And the only way you're going to know that is to either look at shop key or look at your owner's manual. Don't just assume because it's power steering that it takes power steering fluid. Mixing chemicals most of the time is wrong. Every once in a while you get some that are compatible, but you don't want to mix your power steering fluid in your transmission fluid in your power steering system. There's viscosities involved, and cleaning agents, and all kinds of different variables. So the point of the matter is always make sure you use it whatever the vehicle calls for. Now, go ahead, pause the video, go to your vehicle, and check your power steering fluid. Welcome back. How was your power steering fluid? Was it low? Maybe you need to get a creeper or a blanket, lay under the car, take a look for some drippage. Maybe it's completely clean, maybe it's full. I don't know. You're there, I'm not. So, the next thing we're going to check is engine coolant. I'm portable now, so I'm going to walk over here and I'm going to show you. This is the vehicle we've been working on. There's a couple warnings on this cap. That means, caution, don't open it when it's hot. Open it when it's cold. See the little steamy marks? So never open engine coolant bottles when they're hot. You will get burnt. They're pressurized. It will spray you with hot liquid. You will not have a good time. On this one, you don't even have to open it to check it because, see if I can get down in there. These are your lines right here to check it. It's supposed to be between these two lines, between this one and this one. That's cold, that's hot. This is supposed to have green coolant. Now this car hasn't been running, so I'm going to go ahead and open it. I'm going to take a little gander down in there. That's horrible. That brown mucky muck down there is basically acid. This vehicle is hosed. We would have to actually do a coolant flush on this. That is not what coolant's supposed to look like. I'm going to walk you over here to this vehicle. That one's the reservoir type. You may have like an old school one that has a cap. Okay? This is an old school radiator. Okay? Just to kind of give you a little gander at what it looks like. These, to open them, two-stage process. They actually thought about people burning themselves. When they're pressurized, they're actually pushing upward. So when you go to push down on them to open them, if it's too hot, you have to really fight it to open it. Okay? Right now, if I was touching this, it was burning my hand, I wouldn't dare opening this. This is ice cold. So I'm going to push down and turn it to the left. I'm right-handed, so of course I'm trying to use my left hand. There it goes. First stage, see it won't come off. I got to push down again to turn it the rest of the way off. Okay? They're designed that way for a safety. So to check these, and you get a light, you do not want these radiators to be completely full. To check these, see how nice and green that is? That's some really nice coolant. That's like perfect. And I'm going to show you here in the next video how to actually check some of this stuff. Okay? But that right there, that coolant is wonderful. And it's only supposed to be about maybe 2 or 3 inches down from the top, which in this case it is. Alright, so this vehicle is actually checking out great. Now go out to your vehicle, provided it's not hot. Don't take your cap off if it's hot. I repeat, do not take your cap off if it is hot. Check out your coolant. Most of the time you're going to have what's called a D-gas bottle, which is what this vehicle has right here. That's a D-gas bottle. If you have a D-gas bottle, you can check the level from the side. But you're not going to be able to check the condition so much unless you take the cap off. And I repeat, do not take the cap off if it is hot. One more thing about cooling systems and coolant that I forgot to mention last time is you can't go by the color all the time. This is nice and green. I said, oh, that looks so good, it's green, it's good to go. And looked at the other vehicle and it was like kind of nasty looking. I'm like, oh, that's not no good, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's actually a tool for testing the coolant. And the way it works is, depending on what kind of tester you have, this one's got floating balls. This one here's got these little wipers in there that move, okay? Each thing tells you basically a gauge of some sort that tells you where your freeze protection is. We're going to use this guy because it's open. But the way this works is it's like a turkey baster. It's a little ball that squeezes on the end. We're going to put the hose down inside the radiator. Give it a squeeze. Try to suck some coolant up in it. There we go. And then we're going to look and see how many of these balls are floating. Well, let's see. Are they floating or are they not floating? They're all floating. Alright, so like I said before, this looks really good. It's green. Now we know all these balls are floating. It's good to negative 49 degrees. So we know the coolant in this is not going to freeze during the winter. These tools are actually not that expensive. You can pick the cheap one up at Walmart for like $3. Maybe better ones. This one is probably like a $20 one. But either way, it's a good little tool to have around the house, in your toolbox, whatever. Hi, you're back. You didn't burn yourself, did you? I hope not. I'd worry. So anyway, we got one more fluid to check on this vehicle, and that is our windshield washers. In this case, it looks like a butterfly, but actually it looks like a windshield that's being washed. That's how you know where it goes. Can't really see down inside of it, but guess what? You can just fill this baby to the top. Usually these things, when they're completely empty, will hold a whole gallon. And this old truck over here, you can actually see the level on the side because it's got this bottle right here. Either way to check, it's fine. And as stated before, we live in Western Pennsylvania where it freezes. Now this is from Walmart. I'm kind of leery about certain things from Walmart. We talked about that oil. The oil was actually, according to ILSAC, it was actually about the same quality as the other oil. But with coolant or with windshield washer solvent, if you want to test it, it's a simple test. You take the gallon before you stick it in your car. You take it outside and you leave it on the porch overnight in a cold day. If it freezes, do not use it. If it doesn't freeze, then it's good to go. Whatever you do, you don't want to like just dump any old solvent in your windshield washer bottle, not knowing the temperature it's good for, because what happens is if it does freeze, it expands, it'll break your plastic bottle. So in this video, I taught you how to go over the vehicle for maintenance as far as looking at the fluids, checking your fluid levels, hopefully trying to take a look at the color, the texture, quality of the fluid that's in the vehicle. The next couple of videos that I do are going to be more generalized, specific things for the different systems, i.e. the battery, checking the coolant system, things of that nature. So, don't go away, more videos are to come.